On today's Moving the Chains, we've got an interview with one of the new head coaches of one of the premier programs in the state, Jerel, Donnie Littlejohn of the Gaffney Indians.
Man, so much fun. I mean, these are always special when a coach gets to coach at their alma mater, but it's even more special when it's the Gaffney Indians involved. So I'm sure we'll run some numbers up on this one. A lot of fun catching up with Coach and hearing his story, but just great stuff coming out of Cherokee County there.
Yeah, excited for you guys to watch this one. It was a great time talking to him. Really enjoyed it. Got some good insight on his career and his plans for the program. Hope you guys enjoy it here. Coach Donnie Littlejohn, the Gaffney Indians, here on Moving the Chains.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.
Welcome into Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. We've got a great interview today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the Gaffney Indians, Donnie Littlejohn. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you for having me on.
We appreciate your time. We really do. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains. Website, movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Coach Littlejohn was hired in January. He was offensive coordinator at Gaffney since 2010. He was a co-coordinator for 2 years prior to that and was on staff for 6 seasons before that as well. He's an alum of Gaffney and played collegiately at Furman University. Coach, let's just start with kind of the transition. How's it been, going from being on staff for so long to now being the head man, being, when you taking over there at Gaffney?
Well, you think it would have been easy transition. Gaffney football is kind of all I've known. But let me tell you what has not been the case. It has not been an easy transition. I quickly realized that there's a lot of stuff that I had to learn just because this is the first time I've had the luxury of everything coming towards me, and having to make decisions. But one of the things that I'm blessed with is a great staff, a great staff and a great understanding staff. So, it's kind of been nice having those guys around. But, the expectations and the me knowing what was going on, I can't say that it's been a smooth transition.
Coach, you mentioned Gaffney is all that you've known. Obviously you had that stint in your playing career at Furman, but you've been Gaffney through and through. Can you talk about your coaching career as you progressed there? And, how did you know that you wanted to take that step and be a coach full time?
Well, if you talk to some of my family members, they will say that, it's always been in my blood. When I was little, I was drawing up plays and doing all that. I'm not so sure about that. But I can tell you I've been blessed. Joe Montgomery was my head coach whenever I played here. And I also was hired by him that first year. And then, of course, Phil Strickland came along and then Coach Jones took over after him. So I've been blessed and I got, big shoes to follow. And with those guys, you got a Hall of Fame coach and you probably going to have another coach that's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point before it's all said and done because of what he's done here at Gaffney High School. So I'm blessed to be on the shoulders or to follow guys like that. I've learned a lot, and I've had some great mentors along the way, with Greg Lawson, who was the OC that came with Coach Strickland when he came, and just, I've been around a lot of great guys. And Gaffney is a place where, there's expectations. I'm one of the few people who blessed to experience those expectations as a player and as an assistant coach and now, a head coach. So that's nothing new. I know exactly what to expect from that arena. But I've also, like I said, been blessed with a bunch of mentors and great guys and great examples. The late Cameron Brooks, who was a phenomenal coach. And, there's other coaches that, I can name a whole bunch, Larry Irvin, a bunch of guys that have just poured into me and have taught me a lot about being at Gaffney.
As an alum of Gaffney, Coach, and I'm sure it's always, been really special to be able to coach there and be a part of that program. But does it take on even maybe a bigger level now, kind of now that you're the head man there at your alma mater? I mean, that's got to be super cool for you.
It is, and it was a dream come true. I understand and I fully recognize what this means, and what's the word I'm looking for? What the pressure is like again, what the expectations are, and I 100% embrace those. I want to do a great job, but I understand that I can't do it by myself, and it's scary. I confessed to the staff a couple of weeks ago that, guys, this is the first time in my career where I'm depending on somebody else to be successful. I've always kind of been one of the driving forces behind people. Now I need people to step up and help me be successful, because that's what it is. If you're going to be a successful head coach, you better surround yourself with a bunch of successful coaches, because you can't do this by yourself. And again, I'm super blessed to be surrounded by a great staff.
Coach, I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned, those coaches before you got there, the head coaches, Coach Montgomery, Coach Strickland, Coach Jones, that you had the pleasure of working with. Who are some other coaches outside of that you maybe, obviously you learned from them day to day, but who are some maybe coaches that you pull from the collegiate ranks, pro ranks, that you've used to kind of use some innovation in offense or things like that, to refine your style as a coach?
Well, of course, I came through at Furman during the Bobby Johnson era, and there was some great years during that time. My offensive line coach is Clay Hendricks, who's the head coach at Furman now. I was on Bobby Lamb was on staff during that time, and Bruce Fowler was on staff at that time. All those guys, were head coaches or been coordinators, and getting to see the chemistry of those guys develop, which I think is why. We had some special times there. Of course, the players I played with during that time were phenomenal. I was just a small guy surrounded by a bunch of great guys, and I got to contribute a little bit to make that program a success. But Coach Lawson, I got some great guys here. Kevin Phillips, who's my associate head coach. Coach Phillips actually coached me whenever I was here. I get to joke with him about that. And Randy Birch, he's back with us. He's an assistant head coach. He's, was at Rock Hill for a brief stint. And I'm excited about the coordinators that we got that we picked up in Ian Cooper and Brad Van Horn. I've been around them guys a short time, but they have phenomenal minds, and I'm looking forward to even continue to learn from those guys. My college roommate is Billy Napier, he was my quarterback whenever I was at Furman, and of course he's the head coach at Florida now. Des Kitchens, who's the offensive coordinator at Virginia. Jeff Scott. I used to pick his brains a lot when he was at Clemson, and Tony Elliott and some of those guys. The list just goes on and on and on and on. You don't make stuff up in coaching. You kind of steal a bunch of stuff and just kind of, put it together. But there's a lot of people that I can say that have influenced me on my coaching journey.
Coach, you've mentioned your staff a couple times and how much, a great group of guys you got around you. I know that you mentioned you did bring in some new guys as well. What was that process like, finding Coach Van Horn and those guys? And, are you fully stacked now, or are you looking for a couple more pieces as well, or is the staff fully in place?
Well, absolutely. We're not looking for anybody else. I cannot handle anybody else. I'm going to be honest. I'm a firm believer that what's also special about Gaffney is it's a family-type oriented place. We always kid, if you go back and look, there's not a high turnover rate when it comes from people leaving Gaffney. A lot of the guys that I work with that are still here, they're 16, 17, 18 years been in this place. So I felt like that the offense needed a certain thing, and I felt like our defense needed a certain aspect. So to be completely honest, I went after both of those guys. I believe in talking to people and people I trust, and who are the hot topics, who are the hot names. Like, if you could go out and you could build a staff, who are you going after? And Brad Van Horn and Ian Cooper just kept popping up. They just kept popping up, like in 3 or 4 different conversations that I talked to people. And so I was like, that's got to be a sign. Again, on our defensive side of the ball, there's 6 guys, 7 guys over there, where at least 5 of those guys have been coordinators at other places. So they needed something totally different than what our offensive side needed. Our offensive side needed somebody that was more innovative, who was going to do things more than I did while I was a coordinator. I am Gaffney, through and through. I believe in lining up and whipping people. Well, that's kind of 2004, 2005-ish. We needed somebody that was going to be a little bit more innovative. And like I said, Brad Van Horn's name just kept coming up. And I heard him do a podcast a couple weeks ago, and he, referenced that you always want to conduct yourself where your name is mentioned in the room when you're not in it. Well, that's his story. His name just kept coming up. South Point has the type of players we have. They have the same expectations we have. And so I felt like I just needed to go after him. And it's been a great fit since he's been here. And then, of course, Ian Cooper, who came to us from Myers Park in North Carolina, he's worked with a couple of guys from this area. He actually recruited this area when he was at Gardner Webb. So he knew a little bit about Gaffney. And he just has a great personality. And I knew he would fit well with those guys that are already on the defense side of the ball. So to be honest with you, I went after those guys and I went after them hard. And it's by the grace of God, I'm lucky that I could land both of those guys.
Coach, I got to ask you some specifics. Schematically, what should we expect out of Coach Cooper's defense, and what should we expect out of Coach Van Horn's offense? I also want to ask you, about Coach Van Horn. Was the appeal of him? You have a big-time prospect, college prospect quarterback there in Javon Gilmore. Did that lead into, any influence in pulling him? And are you going to be, still involved, or are you going to take that CEO type role as a head coach?
Well, of course, I'm going to be involved just because everything falls on me. But I don't think it's fair to go out and get a talent like Ian Cooper or Brad Van Horn and, try to tell those guys what to do. I don't believe in the whole, standing over them and saying you got to do this. They've proven themselves where they're coming from. And so I feel like I owe them the respect. I owe them the opportunity to come in and do things their way. But of course, we've had that conversation. Hey guys, you're only going to get a length of rope before I pull you back. Because I do know Gaffney. I do know the type of players here. I do know this community. And so I am giving them leeway. And again, the other staff is great too. It's just not those two guys. I trust this staff completely. So it probably would be more of a CO role with me knowing everything, because that's kind of how Phil Strickland did it too. He was a CO and just, he knew everything that was going on. Don't get me wrong. There was nothing that went on in the program that he didn't know about. But I believe in giving them guys the autonomy to do their thing and to, to the respect to go out and be who they are, in the Gaffney mode. We're still going to be a 3-4 defense. Gap scheme, attack, stunting, bringing more people. We still have athletes, and on offense, we're still going to be make the team make the defense defend the entire field. Get your playmakers in space to make plays. You probably can expect a little bit more shifts and motions from Van Horn than what I did, because he likes to manipulate players and set up people and get people on the islands and take advantage of that. He also likes to use the Jimmys and Joes a little bit more. I was a balanced person. We're going to make sure that even if a person is not there, that we still can operate the offense. He's a little bit more dependent on players. That may be a philosophy difference that we're going to have to work through, because one thing I believe that Gaffney is blessed with a bunch of playmakers, and so you got to take advantage of that. And I don't think you have to solely depend on one person. If you do what you're supposed to, then, it's hard for defenses to defend what Gaffney brings to the table.
You mentioned it, Coach. The Indians, they always have tons of playmakers, both sides of the football. Who are some guys that we should really be on the lookout for this Friday night, or I guess this season on Friday nights?
Well, you mentioned Javon Gilmore, and I didn't answer that part of the question, so I am going to answer it now. Yes, Coach Van Horn and hiring him was a big decision because of Javon. I wanted somebody who I felt like could grow him a little bit more than what I grew him over the past year. And, and you look at the kind of quarterback that Van Horn's used to nurturing, it's kind of a Javon Gilmore type kid. So, of course, he's going to be a big-time playmaker. I think he visited Arkansas this past weekend and had a great time there. Jay McDowell, who is, a phenomenal tailback, one of the best players I think I've had a chance to coach. He's back in full swing. He got hurt after week 1. And there's been some question marks on, will he be the Jayden he was before he got hurt? The answer is no. He's better than he was before he got hurt. And so I'm excited to see what he's going to do. You did Scott Lindover, who's getting a lot of looks from the offensive line position. CJ Brooks. We got a newcomer in Josiah Hill that transferred in from Kings Mountain, who I think is going to shock some people this year on offense. And, of course, on defense, you got Zion Ratchford, who's a playmaker, who had a phenomenal spring. I'm looking forward to see what he does this year because he's worked hard the past 3 years, but he's a long type kid, and it just took him a while to figure out himself. And I think he's done that. So I'm excited to see what this year is going to look like for him. You got Zion Dawkins, who's a young buck that's playing in the secondary, who I think is going to have a fantastic year. He had a fantastic year last year. He's going to be a sophomore. Chad Smith on that side of the ball, Chancellor Michaels. We got a lot of guys who I'm excited to watch play.
Coach, I appreciate, and I know Kevin does as well, and I'm sure the listeners will. You've been very candid in like the transition and it not being, easy. It's been an adjustment for you. But I know once you got on the grass in the spring, that was not an adjustment. You got back to coaching ball. What were you able to learn from your team, this spring as you guys went through practice there?
Well, a lot of times you get to break in a coordinator. But when you're breaking in 2 coordinators and you have to learn 2 different systems, you know what I'm saying? And the systems are very similar. Football's football. Counter's counter. You're going to bring the outside linebacker. Ain't but so many ways you can run stunts. You're going to run cover 3. You're going to run cover 2. All that is the same. But the terminology is different. The philosophy is different. And there were some nuances that just, that we had to get used to. And I was very, very pleased and impressed the way everybody kind of picked it up in jail. Now, we're still a work in progress. We're going to a 7-on-7 tomorrow, and it could be the worst 7-on-7 in my coaching experience. I have no idea. But I do know that I was very pleased with the way everybody came together and the excitement and the atmosphere that has been surrounding Gaffney football over the last couple of months. That's the one thing I'm extremely proud of is that part.
Coach, are you big into the 7-on-7 scene? Do you like that stuff? You guys have a lot of big ones scheduled, and also another one of the hot topics the last couple of years has been the 11-on-11. Have y'all gotten big into that as well?
Do you want a true answer, or do you want the
give us the truth? Come on, guys.
Here's the true answer. I feel like 7-on-7s should be used as learning tools. And some people don't have that philosophy because I don't think they compete at a high level that we do. Our kids compete to see who can get dressed quick. And competition has never been a problem here in Gaffney. And so a lot of people use the 7-on-7 scene to compete. Our kids are bred to compete. They're Gaffney kids, and so they compete. My goal every year, and it's the same this year, and it's been the same every year that I've been a part of this program, is for the kids to grow during 7-on-7s. I could care less if we go out there and win a 7-on-7 championship because that's not our goal. Our goal is to be playing on the first Saturday or first Friday in December, whenever that game is. Our goal has always been to make sure we get better and we prepare and do what we do for to get better for the season. So, yes, I like 7-on-7s. Am I going to go and have a stroke tomorrow if we do bad? Probably not. Will I have a problem if our kids don't compete? Absolutely, because that's what we're known for, is competing. Will I have a problem if our kids don't behave and show the class that they've been instilled with coming from Gaffney? Yes, I will have a problem. Am I going to have an issue if we don't cover the person the right way, or if somebody sends the tailback down the middle where that guard's going to be standing on Friday night? I'm not going to lose my mind on stuff like that. I just don't think that's a big deal. my whole goal as a coordinator and now as the head coach is to make sure everything that we do is to get our kids better, and that includes 7-on-7s. Now, I've heard a lot of great stuff about the 11-on-11, but we hadn't got involved in that. And that may be something we may explore in July, because I'm a big proponent of, hitting 7-on-7s fast. And so we got a bunch scheduled in the month of June, and then our July is pretty much open. We always do a bunch of local tournaments so that we can get better. And then we always try to go to USC and compete in a really, really good tournament because Carolina does it great. It does it big. It's, right down the road. They're a first-class facility, first-class coaches. And they're going to treat you right. So we always try to end with USC, and that's on the 20th of June. So, yes, I want to get better, but am I going to have a stroke if we go 0-6 tomorrow, or we, go 2-4, whatever? Probably not, as long as our kids are growing and getting better.
Coach, Gaffney's a program where it's state title or bust. It feels like each and every year, you're going to be in the mix, and you guys have had a ton of success, recently and historically. It's not somewhere that it needed to be a rebuild. A lot of the coaches that we interview during this series, they're taking on the reins there because the program has struggled most of the time. You're obviously, taking over for a legend that's just retiring, but what is something, in your uniqueness, you mentioned the coordinators and really working to, put your stamp on the program, but what is something else that you really wanted to change to kind of make it your program going forward?
Well, again, I am following a guy that is phenomenal. He's a legend. He's going to be a legend. He's the winningest coach in the program's history. He's the most tenured coach in the program's history. So I would be a fool to say I'm going to change a whole lot of stuff that Dan Jones did. I'm not. What I do believe in is that we have a responsibility to give back to this community. This community has showed us a lot of love over the whole time I've been here. And so I think that the kids should need to be more involved. So community service is going to be a big deal. And I think the kids are tired because they're going somewhere pretty much every day to help somebody or do something. That's kind of big. One of the things I tell parents is that, hey, listen, I'm going to treat the kids like they're mine. So that means I'm going to tell them I love them. And it also means I'm going to chew them out when I need to. Well, one of the things that my parents instilled in me was, you're a student athlete. And I was blessed, because of that, because of my athletic ability, because of my academics, and because I had a mom that did not play, I got to go to school free. And so I hope that, the kids understand that they are student athletes first, and that's extremely important. But, of course, I do understand that, Gaffney cares about the W's and L's. So I do want to continue that tradition, but I want to also kind of develop, all-around players per se. Then, I may get in trouble for saying this. I don't care. I tell people all the time, I love Jesus. I believe in Christ. So, I know what he's done for me and the things he's done in my life. I tell the players all the time, look, I can't make you take him or I can't make you accept him, but by golly, you're going to be introduced to him. And so one of the things that I try to do is to make sure I hire men of faith, integrity, character, discipline, who exemplify the qualities of Christ. And I try to live my life that way, absolutely. But I'm going to always try to emulate him. And so, again, I can't force the kids to accept him, but by God, they're going to be introduced to him every day in the way we do things, in the way we conduct ourselves, in the way we carry ourselves. So that's kind of some of the things that I hope that people will look back whenever this is what he believes.
Put Founders in the game and win big with our great rates. Whether you're looking for a loan or want to grow your money with a certificate, Founders Federal Credit Union can help you move the chains on your financial goals. Not a member? No problem. Visit foundersfcu.com to see if you qualify. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.
Got a couple easier ones here for you, Coach. Let you go today. Maybe it's on the bus ride to an away game. Maybe it's your office for a home Friday night game. But what's on your personal pregame playlist as you get ready to take the field?
I'm a gospel guy.
Okay.
I'm a gospel guy. I've always, even in the weight room when I used to work out, I'm old now and barely can get my shoulders above my head or my arms above my head now. So that working out is not a big deal. but I'm a gospel guy. Pandora, some kind of gospel station is going to be on. And maybe if not gospels, it's going to be 90s R&B music is what I'm going to be listening to. The kids out, they get mad at me because this stuff they're listening to now, I just really can't get with it. I can't. But I understand that's what they need to get themselves going. So I'll step out, turn it down. I'll step out and let them have their moment. But on the bus ride to a game, I'm listening to gospel. Or I'm listening to some 90s, or I'm listening to gospel. Is what I'm listening to.
I love that. I love that. I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up listening to gospel in that R&B era as well. So you can't go wrong with that, Coach.
Yeah.
One that I got to ask you, and we can't cut you any slack because you're a Gaffney guy through and through. And we ask this to everybody that joins our program. Me and Kevin are going there on a Friday night. Where is somewhere that we need to stop and get a bite to eat? We've had food court at the Yellow Mall, maybe grab something quick going in, but we need some real restaurants in Gaffney.
So I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you, of course, the staple of Gaffney is Daddy Joe's. Like, you can't come to Gaffney and not go stop by Daddy Joe's and have a meal. And I'm going to even do you one better. Try the shag burrito. I'm just telling you, it sounds crazy, but you need to go to Daddy Joe's and try the shag burrito. And then the other thing I'm doing is Carolina Cafe, which is up number 11. Those kind of my two favorite restaurants in Gaffney. But Gaffney has a real food truck scene right now that's taking off too. And so I've kind of enjoyed exploring that aspect of it too.
Coach Jerel and I have had, the opportunity several times to go to games at Gaffney at the Reservation, check it out. And I mean, you guys have one of the better stadiums, better fan bases across the state. But for folks who maybe have not been able to check out a game there at home for you guys, what's that atmosphere like on Friday night? Obviously, you have a different perspective because you were a player there as well at the old Reservation. But talk to the folks about, what that community is like and what that atmosphere is like on a Friday night there in town.
It's unbelievable. You get a high like none other whenever you step on that football field and on Friday nights. And that's one of the great things about Gaffney that I don't take for granted, and I do understand, is our fan base is unbelievable. There's times when we travel, when we take more people than that's going to be at their home game. And I don't take that for granted. I appreciate it. I encourage it. But, also with that comes expectations. I mean, they're going to let you know how they feel. They're going to let you know when they think you're wrong, and they're going to let you know when it's your fault, which is it's been my fault a lot over the last 14 years. But you got to accept that. That's the mystique of being here, running through the smoke and the fireworks going off, and the band playing and the cheerleaders doing a little war dance and the crowd behind you, and third down music and all that. It's unbelievable. And I can't take that for granted. That's all I know. Which is why I've also been scared to go somewhere else because I didn't want it to be a letdown. The fans and the atmosphere here is just unbelievable. I put it up against anybody anywhere else in the state of South Carolina. So
I gotta agree, Coach. We go all over the state from 1A all the way up to the biggest classifications in 5A, and you guys have that small town feel still with a big time environment as well. So we definitely love coming to games there. The last one before we let you go, Coach, you've been very gracious with your time. What are some goals that you have for the 2025 version of the Gaffney Indians?
Well, of course, it's to win a state championship. I mean, that's our goal, is to win a state championship, to be playing better at the end of the year than we're playing when we start out. But also, to win the first game, to, make sure our kids are disciplined, to make sure our kids are doing what they're supposed to be good examples for young men, for young players and people that are in this community, to put a product on the field that people can be proud of. I would love to say I want to go 15-0, but we won a whole bunch of more games and state championships around here. Being 12-3 and whatever it is over the 15-0. Now I have been blessed to be a part of both 15-0 seasons around here, and that was a magical time, and that was a stressful time to do that. But just the goal is to be playing in December and hopefully bring home another state title here with chasing 19. That's kind of our motto. but also to put our kids in a situation to be the best they can be, and and produce, and hopefully some of these seniors will take advantage of the opportunities they're given and go play somewhere else, or grow as a player and be great men in society, and contributors to society as a whole.
Well, this has been great. I want everyone to go check out the Gaffney program and Coach Littlejohn on social media. They do a great job with some videos and, talking about their kids, keeping their kids and their program out there. So certainly follow them on social media. Like I mentioned, follow us as well at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS, our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Movin The Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Jerel, anything else for Coach? Let him go today.
Yeah, Coach Littlejohn, we just want to thank you again for your time tonight and sharing your story, your plans for the program. We have no doubts that you're going to continue that winning tradition there at Gaffney, and you've been an integral part, over the last few years in making sure that they got to where they wanted to be. So I'm sure you're going to keep that going. We learned a lot the last few years about that typical Gaffney fashion, and we look forward to seeing you make your mark and your stamp on this program.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. You guys do a great job too at what you do. I feel blessed and lucky that you even asked me to appear on the show. And of course, anytime we can do anything for you guys or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out. And that's for anybody. This is a very good place, regardless of what everybody says. And we're going to, give you our best, and we're going to be polite and try to be hospitable if we can. So thank you again for having me on your show.
Well, we appreciate the time, Coach. Appreciate the kind words. We certainly do. Look forward to stopping by a practice or a game and getting to see you again here soon. But best of luck, and we'll catch up soon, all right?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin The Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com.